The need for affordable housing is very acute in the community, but the niche that High Plains Housing Development is trying to reach is those very low-income folks and our homeless population.
Language that we use is they've been chronically homeless because of a mental health condition or a physical health condition or a chronic disability or a chronic illness. They have not been able to maintain housing and they lost their housing.
Sometimes different segments of the housing market get left behind, but need for affordable housing, specifically right now with inflation as high as it is and the cost of housing, both rental and purchase, is at really all-time highs in relation to wages.
30% of your household income is what you should be paying for housing, 30% or below. 37% of the population is paying more than 30% of their income for rent. So that's a very significant amount of households.
It costs the community, primarily a hospital and other local services, nearly $40,000 to $50,000 per year to have someone be homeless, a person into permanent support housing. Statistics show that that cost goes down nearly in half. I think it's a great public policy for all people to care about the constituency of all people in their community and those that don't have as much as others.
Well, I'll tell you where we first got the idea, at least in my mind, that this property could be used for residential use. Was some entrepreneurs in the 80s came to my dad and I. They had purchased a similar property that the Cuter Empson Company owned in Longmont and converted it to residential space. And it's called the Cannery, and it's still in existence, and people still live there, and they have for the last several decades. And so even though this was an industrial property, we saw where others with vision had converted it and repurposed it for housing.
We're starting with the most acute need first, and that is housing our most vulnerable people who are living on the street. And then from there, we're going to build housing for those folks who are living at or below 50% of AMI.
Places, but the need for people that are going to go from homelessness to stable housing with some additional helps. That's what this permanent supportive housing, these 50 units, is going to provide.
Each tenant will have their own one-bedroom apartment where they are free to come and go. They're a regular tenant just like anybody else. But then at the same time, we'll have right on site case managers and mental health experts and community resources, nutrition, medication management, all of those kind of important things that are missing in the lives of people living on the street will be available to them right outside.
These residents will now be housed, and they will have access to supportive services, be it physical health care or mental health care, whatever it is they need to help them to keep their housing. Our next phase 2 is going to help people that need a place for housing that's more affordable for them so that they can have a place that's safe in this community, but they're not necessarily on the streets per se. They might be living with friends right now or relatives, but they need a place, an entry point of housing that's going to be beneficial to them. Nearly all of them have lived in Greeley for 20 years, 20 plus years. And these are our neighbors, but for some reason they lost their housing. And now this is an opportunity for neighbors to regain housing and to, have the full experience of being community members.
It's just really cool that we have such old buildings, built in 1908, and we're able to incorporate them into this property, this whole campus plan. So there will be a phased approach. So phases 1 and 2 will be affordable housing. Phases 3 and 4 involve the larger, more iconic buildings on the property that we do hope to develop into more commercial type operations and possibly some more affordable housing.
That vision was always in my mind, but it could be used for that purpose, and it would only be a complement to the park, the neighborhood, the community center, an integral part of this North Greeley neighborhood.
One of the most exciting parts of this project is the amount of community support we've received. How grateful we are to Dennis Poshico for generous donation of this property. It really was the catalyst for really helping High Plains launch not only this affordable housing, but many more projects. He will have impacted hundreds of lives through this donation because it will allow us to continue to build affordable housing for many more years.
I believe that this project specifically and this campus will be the catalyst for future conversations. And so I've just been appreciative of all of our partners.
I can't mention any of this without saying we could not have done all of this without all of the partners that have come together. Our development partners that are working with us on this project say they have never seen this level of local support to make a project like this happen.
Just so many people came together to make this possible, but I can tell you it wasn't easy. And it took the grit of Mrs. Hartman and our board to continue to stay in the fight and do the good work. And so I just appreciate everyone that was part of the story here. It's just the beginning. And without that kind of community all-in support, these type of projects will not happen. But it does take all of us.